Hey, I'm Ailsa Fineron at Rife magazine, and I'm interviewing our mayor of Bristol, Marvin Rees, today. How does it feel to be mayor, and has it changed your relationship with Bristol at all?
How does it feel? It's really difficult to quantify. I should spend more time journaling. I'm not too sure. When I look back and think about as a kid growing up, before this was all landscaped and playing cricket on here, I would never have thought I'd be mayor of the city. Has it changed my relationship with the city? Absolutely. The things that have mattered to me and the people I've grown up with, we can now start to make them happen. And as I shared a number of times, I grew up a little mixed race kid in a city that had some issues around fractures and identities. So I think there's clearly something that's gone on that 50 years ago it would be difficult for a black person to get a job on the buses. Today they've elected someone to be mayor, and that's, I think, that whether however we engage with it, that's quite significant, I think.
How do you feel about that situation now? Do you think something we still need to work on? Or a lot of people would say that Bristol is still pretty like isolated community.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
It's true. It's an accurate reflection. I mean, what we mean, we need to dig down into what we mean by that. It's not just around lines of ethnicity. It's around lines of class, income inequalities. We have growing inequality in Bristol, increasing unaffordability. We have some older standing communities that are subject to what we call gentrification. Those are in South Bristol, they're around Easton, St Paul's, Montpellier, where people even of good financial means can't afford to live there anymore.
Yep.
So the challenges we face are the challenges faced by cities all over the world. One of the real flagship policies I've talked about is making sure that we have mental health investment for all primary age school children in the city, and that comes into resilience, building a sense of identity, building good quality relationships as well. I think that will help a lot.
One thing that I've struggled with is that transition from going from young people's services to being an adult. It's a very abrupt change, and I think, is there anything you're thinking about doing to smooth that at all, or catch those people as they go from under 18 to over?
In the first instance, I hope that by doing a resilience training we can reduce demand, so that people have the ability to overcome. What do we say? 50% of lifetime mental health problems start before the age of 14, and potentially 50% of those are preventable. And so it's absolutely my intention to make sure that mental health is at the top of those list of priorities, and we actually get on top of that movement. Treat health as a system, not just a collection of isolated services.
So I think that something that is very tied in with mental health is gender inequality and domestic abuse, and you say you want to address that.
Yeah.
So how are you thinking of doing that? Is that more prevention and talking to people?
Yeah, so I met last week with Women's Commission, a senior council officer and Bristol Women's Voice. So we're launching a piece of work now to say what is the state of gender pay equality in Bristol. So what's the gender pay gap? And what I've asked them to do is parallel that with a piece of work looking at the race pay gap in Bristol as well. We also committed to 50% of the cabinet being women, because it changes the political tone. When you have diversity in your group, you can see different things, you can understand different things, and actually six of our cabinet members of 10 are women now.
With the EU referendum, one thing that has definitely come out of it as a young person and speaking to lots of young people is this disenchantment with politics and feeling that voices haven't been heard. And I know you really want to work with young people to get them to feel engaged and to engage them further. So how do you propose doing that?
I think there's a big lie behind the Leave campaign. And the big lie was that a group of people from very privileged backgrounds turned up and told marginalised people that they were the answers to their problems. And then went on to tell them that electoral politics was their enemy. And what they've done is they've done a clever sleight of hand. And rather than allowing people to have a proper political economic understanding that the way the world is not just a result of electoral politics, it's because of the way we do economics, born privilege, social immobility. Those people who were born into privilege have just cast their attention and said it's all about electoral politics, and further distanced people from electoral politics, which is why I think good quality journalism is important, because too often I hear journalists talk about the political class. I grew up on this street. Am I a member of the political elite just because I got elected? Do I suddenly become distanced from ordinary life when I got 7 brothers and sisters all growing up around it? That's nonsense. So the big lie has been that people who are going to walk off into the horizon with lots of money in their pocket, with very, very rich friends, and be members of the British elite beyond electoral politics will stay there, while the country's voted to leave. They're going to pay, and people from areas like this and poorer states who probably voted leave are going to pay a heavy financial price for it.
And how do you want politics to look or be thought about in the next 10 years?
I want it to look like Bristol. We're one of the most diverse cities outside London, and our level of diversity is increasing. Right? Was it something like 16-18% of our population is BME, 30% of our school population. But it's not just about race diversity and ethnic diversity. It's about class. It's about gender. It's about disabled people, LGBT. What we need is a decision-making body in the chamber that reflects that full diversity. But for me, I offer my time. If anyone wants to come and spend time with me down at the council house, see how it all works, they're welcome to.